You know what I love, Chris, is that you have started doing all of this like with just your phone. When I started my first online business, that's what I was using, just a phone and borrowed Wi-Fi. So when people are like, I can't do that, I'm like, yeah, you fucking can. Like, yeah, you
Well,
fucking
and
can.
that's the thing. I mean, I've got, if you dig way back through my channel, which is something we need to do at some point, is I need to organize things and make playlists and I've got a bunch of rocket videos that I had, construction doing not just launches, but building like my level one cert rocket and all this other stuff and some unboxing videos and other crap, you know. And same thing, I just did all that with my phone,
Yeah.
you know. And I don't even have like a great phone. Like I fell in love with the LG stylus phones and then LG went out of the cell phone business. So I had the last one they made, which was I believe the 5. And then I have essentially the 6 version now, but it's made by Moto, um,
Yeah.
Moto G. But other than that, it's hardware wise, it's the same specs. It's I think it's either a quad or octa-core processor and quite a big quite a bit of internal storage. I think it's maybe 256, might be 128 gig, but I think I put like a 128 gig card in it and this kind of crap.
Yeah.
But camera wise, this one is much better than the other one I had. I rarely actually use the stylus for anything.
Do you remember like the first cell phones? What were they? The Nokias that everyone
Oh,
got?
the indestructible Nokia flip phone, man. You
Yeah.
couldn't kill that fucking thing. I've seen those fucking things get run over. It literally had the screen break off hanging from a wire and it would still work. And battery life, you would charge those things, it'd last 4 days.
Yep.
So anyway, what are we talking about?
Well, do you want to talk about the 12 steps that you sent me? Because that was fucking brilliant.
The 12 fucking steps.
I sent that to so many people. I was like, Ingrid needs this, Sid needs this. Like,
Right. Sure, we can do that. Um, yeah, I don't know. I've seen that several times. I've got several copies of it, screenshots and stuff saved on my phone. D- Here, you might be able to bring it up easier than me.
I can bring it up on my phone real quick here.
Yeah,
Let's see.
bring it up, read it off, and then we'll go through them one by one, I guess.
My friend Ingrid, when I sent it to her, her response was, Amen.
Yeah,
Hold on.
that's something we can talk about. The meaning of the word amen.
Mmm.
Amen.
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 It's an om.
Almonds.
So the 12 fucking steps. Number 1, admitted I'm fucked. Number 2, realize there's a way to stop fucking myself. Wait, I'm gonna download this so I can read it better. Open. There we go.
Turn my car off. You
My
might
dog
pick
is
up on
still like sitting here staring at
traffic
me like, what are
noise
you doing?
because I'm sitting in downtown Overland.
Is that where you're at?
Yeah.
Yeah, where's the house located?
It's in Oberlin, Ohio. Basically, it's on Route 58. It's on the corner of 58 and 20. There's a big Walmart there, and the house is right next to it. It's a big old yellow farmhouse. It sits back about, I think our driveway is actually 1,000 feet long, or just over a
Wow.
1,000 feet. Total property there is about 30 something acres. Um, Probably about 5 or 6 acres that are mowed and kept, and there's a couple of acres of, because when they first opened it, it was actually a working farm. Um, so there's some like high grass area, which is the old farm fields that we don't use anymore. And then there's a tree line, and past the tree line, there's another 20 something acres, which they use for deer hunting now. I'll I'll do a couple pictures from the end of the driveway at some point. Obviously, legally, I can't do any video.
Right.
So, and it's the Alpha House. It is a faith-based, it's Christian-based recovery rehab. It's a little different than a lot of places, not only because of the whole, faith-based portion, which, yeah, I never in a million years would I have thought me at a Christian-based rehab, right?
I know.
And trust me, I was terrified the day I went there. You know, but believe it or not, it's not real hardcore militant Bible thumping. The people who run the house, the ministry who runs the house, really I should say, is actually very open-minded about a lot of things, which is good. I mean, we've had Muslims there, we've had Buddhists there, we've had all kinds of denominations there. So it was not nearly as terrifying as I thought it was going to be.
I that when people are more emotionally mature spiritually, it doesn't matter what religion, they can listen and take what they need from it. You know what I mean? Without judgment, without poking the bear, so to speak. So even that, like I could go to a Christian based church and I could still get a beautiful message from it
Oh,
because
absolutely.
I can relate it to, source, to universe, to what makes sense for me.
Which is why I say the things I say in my videos. I try not to adhere to or stick to a certain set of labels.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if it's an emotional maturity and their spirituality. Me personally, I would separate both the emotional maturity and the spiritual maturity as two separate things.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think when you reach a particular level in not just one or the other, but in both, um, and that's what I would call Christ consciousness, when you actually start to raise your vibration and your conscious level to obviously not the level of Christ or Buddha or any of the other ascended masters, but headed that direction, we'll say. um,
Yeah.
that yeah, there's a lot of things that it's not even a matter of judgment anymore. It's just things that you choose your battles differently because you see the world in a totally different light. It's not
I
about
think you're right about it being like the emotional and the spirituality should be separated. I think you're right about that.
so back to the 12 fucking steps. Now that we completely
The
segued.
12 fucking steps.
Yes.
What's your favorite 12 fucking step? Wait, should I read them all first?
Yeah,
All
read
of
them
them?
all out. So we start with number one.
Okay,
Realize
number
that we're
one.
fucked.
Wait, I gotta take my glasses off to read it. Okay. Admitted I'm fucked. Number one. Number two. Realize there's a way to stop fucking myself. Number three. Make a decision to get the fuck out of this mess. Number four. This is my favorite one. Write all about how fucked up I really am.
Yes.
Number five. Tell someone else about all this fucked up shit I just wrote about. Step number six. Become totally ready to stop being such a fuck up. Number seven. Try to do less fucked up shit all the time. Number eight. Make a list of people I fucked over. This one's a good one. Number nine. Find those people and tell them, hey, I fucked up. Unless telling them will fuck them up worse. Number 10. Continue to be aware of when I fuck up and set that shit straight pronto. Number 11. Chill the fuck out sometimes and realize that shit's better now. And number 12. Find other people that are as fucked up as I used to be and help them. It's so cut and dry. Like, I fucking love it. I almost feel
It
like
is,
AA has overcomplicated it. We should be giving them this.
I can't, funny, no, that's a great point because as being my sister, I struggled with the whole AA thing in any 12-step program initially in my journey. I mean, there's a reason I've been to 10 inpatient rehabs and over a dozen detoxes and, so forth and so on. It's not because I got it right the first time. Okay.
Right, exactly.
Um, myself being I'll try to be modest here, a highly intelligent person and who understands a lot of things at as I've been told, a very intense and deep level. Um, I overcomplicated the shit out of the 12 steps. Um, initially, it was because I didn't want to admit I was wrong, and I thought I could outthink this problem. No.
Right.
Um, but yeah, and I've been to a lot of programs, and obviously I've been to countless meetings, and I've run big book studies, I've sponsored guys, I've run, groups, I've done the entire gambit of recovery services, and yeah, that is a big problem. Is not just with myself, but with a lot of addicts, is we overthink it, we overcomplicate it, you know. Um, so if you, it's one of the things I like about the 12 fucking steps is yeah, it's kind of right to the point. It just kind of hammers home. Now I don't entirely agree 100% with some of those. Like read number 3 again.
Oh, I gotta pull it up again. Hold on.
Just leave it out.
Oh, it's 222, by the way. Where I'm at. Where I'm at. Okay, which one am I reading again?
3.
Make a decision to get the fuck out of this mess.
Okay. So the original third is let's see, what was it? Made the decision. Wait, what is the original? Wow, how embarrassing.
It's been a
Uh,
hot minute for me, so I can't remember that. The first
I
one is
know
you're
it.
powerless.
Right. Another simplified version of step 1, 2, and 3. I can't. He can, and I'm going to let him. And what they're referring to is God or your higher power. So
Yep.
step 3 is okay. Realizing that just because you're in the mess you're in, it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, step 3. Turn the will and the care of my life over to my higher power.
I I
I think
think
that's
so
close
many
to it.
people struggle with this one, and I think once you can get past it, all the other steps, well, they're step 4, but all the other steps kind of like boom, 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 boom.
I
If
personally, I think
anyone's ever been in a 12-step program, you know what I'm talking about when I say step 4. Oh my God.
it takes step 4. What is
Yeah.
it? 3 weeks to think about it, 1 day to write it.
Yep.
I personally, I don't care if you're an alcoholic, an addict, or not. I think everyone should do a 4th step about once a year.
I do. Yeah.
I really do.
I think I think actually they should teach these steps to young children because they're basic problem solving skills. And it
Yeah.
teaches you to be accountable for yourself, for your actions. So yeah, taking that inventory every year, I think it would benefit everyone, whether you're an addict or not.
Yeah, I agree. And okay, so we'll go. Fuck it, we'll go through. I'm gonna go through. Step 1, 2, and 3. Like I said, what finally clenched it for me was when somebody said it to me. It's real simple. I can't. He can, and I'm gonna let him. Um, step 1, I used to have a real issue. I got stuck in a loophole of how am I ever supposed to overcome this problem if I keep admitting I'm powerless?
Mm.
Yeah, that's where my brain went. Well, the
Yeah.
trick is this. Right. What I realized was, and by surrendering and basically to get out of denial, you have to surrender that you have to succumb to the fact and admit that, okay, I have a problem. The
Yeah.
issue is most addicts, myself included, see, confirmation.
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
They would do something.
most addicts, myself included, we think of ourselves as bad people because we've made bad decisions. Not even bad. We've made stupid decisions, okay? Repetitively insane decisions. Um, that doesn't necessarily make you a bad person, but the powerlessness thing comes into the fact that what you're really powerless over is choice. Okay.
Yeah.
So finally, by finally admitting to yourself that while I'm under the influence of whatever substance, it doesn't even have to be a substance. It could be while I'm under the influence of the dopamine hit from shopping, gambling, sex, people pleasing, whatever their codependency issue is. There are a multitude forms of addiction. While I'm under the influence of scrolling through TikTok or Facebook, looking for how many people like my shit. That is a form of instant gratification and a dopamine hit. That is a form of codependency. That is AKA addiction. So once you finally admit to yourself that I'm powerless over this urge, whatever, this satisfaction, this instant gratification, what you get back is the power of choice. That's how it empowers you. And that's how you can overcome this issue. And that's what I used to struggle with the most was, okay, how am I supposed to ever, and when I finally realized, just fucking throw the towel in, just surrender, just quit fighting myself, you know,
I love
because,
that you said like it's about that dopamine hit. So it doesn't have to be like alcohol or a drug. It can be like you said the gambling or even the scrolling on Instagram. And I find today in our society, of course, with so much social media, there's so many people that they, to me anyhow, have very addictive qualities and tendencies, and they can't see it. They're like, well, I'm not using a drug, so it's fine. I'm like,
yeah,
okay, but you
right,
you called off work so you could watch porn for 12 hours a day. There's a problem. Like
right,
that's a
exactly,
problem.
right.
Yeah,
And that's the thing. I mean, none of those things, and don't get me wrong, 99.9% of addicts out there, they didn't start off wanting to be an addict or an alcoholic.
of course not.
There are
Of
some rare
course.
exceptions, and I'll tell that story some other time. But it started off as fun. It was recreation, you
Yeah.
know, and through a multitude of all kinds of things, many many layers, it became a unhealthy coping mechanism. It became a form of escape, and that's all addiction. And you know this. It doesn't matter if it's a drug, an alcohol, shopping, gambling, porn, whatever. Watching YouTube all day, and yes, people are going to call us hypocrites because we're making a YouTube video.
Yeah.
So I get it. Anything,
Just
as
watch
Grandpa
this
used
one.
to
You
say,
don't have to binge it.
right? As Grandpa used to say, anything in excess is abusive,
Yeah.
and it's absolutely true. And unfortunately, a lot of social media is specifically designed to be addictive. It's specifically designed to trigger that instant gratification, hook, which, believe it or not, is actually part of your survival instincts. It's like when you eat something sweet, you know, there's a reason it tastes sweet because the body's like, ooh, sugar, gimme. It's energy. And yes, all of those things can and will trigger a dopamine hit, just like drugs and alcohol do. Granted, it's dopamine, first of all, is an umbrella term. There are over 25,000 chemicals in dopamine. Okay? It's not one thing. It is usually a cocktail. And to get into pharmacology real quick, or just very briefly, every substance you take in, if your body didn't already produce a similar chemical and you didn't already have a similar receptor, that drug would have absolutely no effect on you. Okay? So whether it be alcohol, heroin, crack, whatever, ketamine, kratom, anything, LSD, psilocybin, somewhere in the brain there is a chemical receptor that can receive that molecule because the brain already produces a similar or the exact same chemical. Which, by the way,
That's
when you
really,
intake
really
all of
good.
those chemicals, they go through a process called mass. I can't say the word. Anyway, they get changed. So
Oh wait, is
when
it
we,
masticizing or something like that?
yes, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
So even when you actually do things intravenously, which was my thing, uh, granted it's a slightly different order of operations, but okay, say you take a pill orally, obviously it's going to go through the liver first and be changed, and then it's going to go through the blood-brain barrier and be changed again. And then when it comes out, it will be a different chemical. Okay. It's the same thing when you do it intravenously. The only difference is it goes through the blood-brain barrier first, gets changed there, and then it gets changed through the liver. The point
Do
being
you
is
go
that
ahead?
the brain already has all of those receptors available. Okay. It's like a lock and key system. Okay. You can't, and that's why, you have certain chemicals and stuff that are just inert to the human body because the human body doesn't produce a similar thing. Anyway,
Do you find, because I find this, so I've had many years sobriety, but I won't say I haven't had that many years sober living. So that's the premise to the question. But do you find that you kind of are really aware of what you're doing on a daily basis? And sometimes I'm like, ooh, that's like an addictive behavior. And for me, it could even be something as stupid as like I come home and I immediately start scrubbing the kitchen. And I've noticed I've done that for like 3 weeks in a row and I can't relax until I've scrubbed the kitchen. Like it goes down that path of like now some people would be like, hey, that's not a bad thing, you're scrubbing your kitchen. True, but like if I can't relax or think about anything else, like that's that addictiveness like coming into play.
well,
So I have to
yeah,
catch myself all the time, all the
okay,
time.
and that's another great point because and I've said this in other videos, the drugs, the alcohol, whatever the mechanism of escape is not the problem. It is the symptom of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And once you truly start to understand that, you realize that, a lot of people think getting sober and recovery is just about quitting the drugs and the alcohol. No. The problem in the definition of, addiction and escapism is you're going to an outside source to fix an internal problem. Okay. Now you have to ask yourself, how many years was I doing that? Because that's how many years of programming your brain now has. So yeah, what you just described, a form of OCD or whatever, um, could also be classified as a cross addiction.
Yeah.
Okay, because you're sure it is the lesser of many evils. You could choose much much more unhealthy things to do. So I get that. It could be, okay, sure, it's somewhat productive, but you're right in the aspect that, if you're so on edge or so anxious that you can't, it's you can't relax and be comfortable in your own skin in your own home until this happens, then
Yeah.
yeah, it's probably indicative of something else. Um, we can talk about that later in private, but um, yeah. So the point is obviously you still have a lot of synaptic and neuron pathways in the brain that are still going to fire just with different level of intensity as well as a different frequency. The other thing that happens with substance abuse addicts, and this probably happens with codependency addicts as well, I'm assuming, um, and that is an assumption. Let me predicate that. Um, when you start abusing a substance on a regular basis like this, the first thing that happens is emotionally you stop growing. So when you stop doing that addictive behavior, you stop that drug or alcohol, you now have however many years of emotional growth to catch up on. And it doesn't happen slowly. You get hit with a fucking tsunami of shit. And I've talked about this in my other videos, how you have this kind of this emotional wave that you go through. And about every 3 months, you kind of plateau and feel stagnant, and then you'll kind of drop off a little, and then you'll come back up. And what happens, as you can probably even attest to this, is over time, the frequency kind of gets longer and longer, and the intensity gets smaller and smaller. So the wave kind of turns into this. And eventually, you kind of get almost level. Well, when you reach that level point, like you're talking about, is when you can start to notice. That's when you really start to notice other behaviors. You can think of it as, okay, yeah, the sine wave has now leveled out, but it's kind of veered off course over here. So now
Yep.
you've got some other, I don't even want to call it bad programming, but you've got some other programming that you might want to adjust, you know. Um,
I don't think it's bad programming, but I think that your entire life is meant to be like, okay, now let's work on this. Now let's improve this. So I think you're right. It just kind of draws your attention to it. Because I have
absolutely.
many, many years of sobriety. But I will tell you this, that is how I know if someone is truly in sobriety or not. Not that long ago, we won't name names. Someone had contacted me and they were like, I'm in contact with someone that you used to date who's a horrible addict. And they're totally sober. They've been sober. I was like, let me talk to him. I talked to this person for 5 minutes. I was like, mm-mm, because the emotional maturity hadn't
Oh, I
caught
know.
up. And
Yeah,
I could, yeah, I could tell. And I was like, no, no, like they're absolutely not. They may have quit using the drug, but they are definitely not living a sober life. Like, no
right.
way, no how. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I see it.
Yeah.
I've been living in a sober house for almost 2 years, and recently, I had a gentleman who had become my best friend. He relapsed about 4 months ago. Um, and
Mhm.
then another person who was working with me um, just relapsed a week ago. And hindsight being 2020, and I mean the first one, I tried to talk to him about several what I would call red flags that I noticed pretty quickly, and it had to do with that emotional maturity kind of thing, and it also had to do with I've said it so many times. I know you've heard me say it. Pink and green are the two colors that'll take anybody out faster than anything. Pardon the vulgarity, pussy or money. Okay,
Yep.
every guy who in this it holds true for women too, because
It
I
does.
can't tell you
It
how many
does.
chicks I know. It's they're chasing a dude or they're chasing a job, or both or any combination. And both of them, that's what essentially started the downward spiral of the relapse was and serial dating and hopping from one person to another is a form of addiction,
It is.
you know,
Yeah.
plain and simple. And it's yes, everyone loves to feel loved, everyone loves to feel attracted, everyone loves to feel accepted. Those are all wonderful things. Um, and that'll be another subject for another time. So, um, I
All
go
right.
again with you.
Tell me about your first sponsor, your first ever sponsor.
I'm trying to remember who it was. Uh, I don't remember his name. I think it was Mike. This guy I met at Primary Purpose probably 8 years ago now. Um, very similar to me, very intellectual person, which is why we probably hit it off. Um, Unfortunately, he relapsed
Mhm.
after probably about a year into him being my sponsor. Um, what he helped me with a lot was getting around a lot of the little loopholes I had created in my own head around the steps, like the example I gave with the first step.
Yeah.
Of course, the next one was step three. What the loophole I came up with was, okay, if the greatest gift God ever gave you was free will, why would you turn it back over to him?
That's pretty good.
Like I said, I thought I could outthink this.
You're like, oh, I got it. I got it. Okay.
right. And one of the things he showed or pointed out to me was that, okay, yes, that is true. That is one of the greatest gifts that was bestowed upon us by the universe, source, the Most High, God, Yeshua, whatever. Um, all roads lead to Rome. Anyway, um, and that is, and have to do a session on this as well about free will and its intended or
Mhm.
proper use.
Yeah, I would like that. Maybe we should do a little series on that one. That's a
Yeah,
good one.
and that's kind of me and him had a very long talk about this, and actually we were in the big book, and essentially the way he put it to me is, turning your the care of your life and your will over to your higher power is actually, once again, I was overcomplicating it. He goes, it's really simple. It's just doing the next right thing. And at that time at primary, the director, he used to tell people, and he told my sponsor, who then told me, because I believe the director was actually considered my grand sponsor, um, do 5 random acts of kindness every day and don't tell anyone.
Oh, I love that. Love
Yeah.
it.
And the point is it's not about the accolades. It's not about the thank you. It's not about the credit. It's about doing the next right thing. And it could be something as the reason my car is a pigsty, because I don't litter. I've got 2 handfuls of cigarette butts in my car door because I refuse to throw them out the window. Right?
I have a
I've got
story about
trash
that.
piled.
Go
I've got
on.
trash piled up in the floor, almost to the top of the freaking passenger seat. Granted, I could stop at a trash can and do it. I just haven't had time. But it's like that. I don't throw my cigarette butts out the window. It's something as stupid as that. You see a shopping cart in the parking lot, put it in the fucking cart bin.
Yeah.
You know, nobody has to know about it. Don't make sure people are watching. Don't no. It's one of the things we used to do at that particular rehab was, they had like 120 dudes there. So needless to say, washers and dryers were running like all the time. Okay. And 99 times out of 100, you had to take somebody's clothes out of a washer and put it in a dryer. Otherwise, you were going to get your shit washed. You
Yeah.
know, Same thing. You wanted to use a dryer? Guess what? Take your clothes out. Don't just leave them balled up on the top. Fold them. Set them aside. You know, um, I can't tell you how many times I've heard, I'm a grown ass man. I ain't folding nobody's fucking clothes, especially their drawers. Dude, really?
Fold the laundry.
That
Real quick,
cracks
I
me up.
I have
That
I have
that
a
cracks
story
me up.
about the littering. I
Okay.
love, I love. Okay, I don't love that your car is a mess, but I love that you're not littering. So I don't know if you remember, but when we were younger, our mom was so against littering. Like if we
Yeah.
threw something out the window, she pulled the car over and she was
Yeah.
like, "Walk up and get it. You
Yeah.
fucking get that."
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when I was a commercial fisherman, on the boat, and great experience. But there are some boats, thankfully not my skipper, there are some boats that are just like, whatever, just we're out this far, just throw whatever into the ocean, this and that. Well, one of the things that they did was they would throw their cigarette butts. And I was like, no, 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 no. I was
Yeah.
like, this is a dolphin's living room. Like, can you imagine someone coming to your house and just throwing cigarette butts in it? I made all of them. I gave them all a Ziploc bag, put all
Right.
your cigarette butts in it, and I was like, I will dispose of them when we get back to shore. So I please clean out your car. But I love that you're like saving all of it. Don't
Do one better.
litter.
I'll pay one of the new guys at the house to clean it for me.
There you go.
That way he can make some money. My car gets clean. You know.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
Right. So yeah, step 1, 2, and 3. It's I can't. Step 2, I believe the original is came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Um, Now the whole higher power thing. Um, so many times I've heard so many people get very passionately upset about the use of the word higher power, especially
Uh-huh.
when you get early into AA. And I know you've heard these conversations. Just pick anything that's not you and make it your higher power. You know, um, because most addicts, most people have a big resentment against God, the universe, source.
Yeah.
Um, because most of us walk around life looking at, you know, life as why me instead of try me. Um, a lot of us get stuck in this victim mentality, especially addicts. Sorry about the truck. One of the ways I got around that one initially, um, my sponsor, my original sponsor, one of my first sponsors, uh, changed the definition of God to good orderly direction.
That's what I was going to say about that. I remember when my first sponsor, she told me that, and I was so excited because I was like, this makes so much sense. And I ran home and Dylan was there. And I was
Oh.
like, she wrote out this acronym for God. And he was like, it's good orderly direction. And I was like, yeah, but it still's really good.
So in that same uh, train of thought, I've repeated this bit of bumper sticker wisdom to other guys, and it's helped quite a few. Or another good example of that is the support group itself. That could be your higher power initially,
Yeah.
until you get over certain hangups and certain resentments and that kind of stuff. And to me, I've now discovered that a lot of those hangups are just a function of the ego, and we'll get into that later because really, ultimately, that's what I have discovered having gone through the steps several times and having taught them several times now is the whole purpose of the 12 steps is really just to kind of disarm and deflate the ego.
Yeah.
I heard it put real good one time. AA is the only place you come in master and work your way up to servant.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love it. And that's just it, Chris. Like, and I'm not trying to deter anyone who's like new to the program, but go through all 12 steps and then do it again and then do it again and then do it again
Yeah.
because every time you're going to get something different, you're going to get further along. You're going to do that deep shadow work. All those things. That's what you need to do.
And that's, yeah. And, now the funny thing is, I mean, and I'm sure have heard these topics before and even probably done your own research. The original 12 steps are actually based off of 6 steps that were done by the Oxford group. But what a lot of people don't realize is the Oxford group was actually a group of psychology students and theology students. And they came up with the original 6 steps. It was out of a Christian Bible study,
Yep.
which
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know that, which is why the word God is all over the big book. That and the fact that it was written in 1934 or whatever.
I think you and I are very fortunate to have discovered this program in Ohio because it was
Yeah,
started in
where
Ohio.
it was founded.
Yeah. And what's really weird is, I'm out on the West Coast now. Like, they have AA out here and meetings,
Oh, it's
but like
totally different.
completely different. Completely different. Like they still have their purpose, but like some people out here, I'm like, oh, you're a friend of Bill, and they're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, okay. I think they need to kind of expand that history of it to kind of get it everywhere. Because
Right.
when you have that history of it, it's totally different. Totally
It is.
different.
And a great example. And it's not that there's a right way or wrong way. Don't get it
No,
twisted.
of course not.
Okay. Um, we've had several gentlemen from out of state. We had one guy who was from the West Coast. I don't remember how or why he ended up out here, but he did. And when I first came to the Alpha House, it was almost primarily 100% faith based. They really had no 12 step or AA at all. I was actually one of the people who kind of helped get more of that involved. The combination of both, really. So we started doing at least one meeting a week. I still think it should be more. But um, we went to right here in Oberlin, there's a big book study group. Um, and it's a good one. I don't know where they got it from, but basically they would do not only the big book, but they would do the 12 and 12. Um, which I don't know if you're familiar with that book or not. It's not actually officially AA literature, but it's written by somebody. It's good. It helps. It kind of elaborates the steps in the 12 traditions. At any rate, so me, it was totally typical group discussion, big book discussion meeting. Some parts was read. They actually had everything on audio, so you sat there and listened to the CD or whatever of somebody else reading a certain section of the book, and then of course everyone discusses it in turn. But they had the typical formalities at the beginning of the meeting. Somebody read the steps, somebody read the traditions, blah 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 blah. All of this stuff. And this dude was freaked out, had to get up and leave the meeting because he had never been to a meeting that was that formal, and it wigged him out so bad. He was like, I felt like I was in court, and I was like, dude, calm down. Like, it's not that serious. Like,
Even when you're telling this story, I've been to meetings out here and same thing. Like I was like, oh, this is way more casual. It's more of like it's here to help you, but it's more of like a hippie mentality. There's
sure,
there's some out here that do that, but there are some people out here on the West Coast that they're like, what do you mean a big book meeting? And I'm like, well, it's where you read from the big book. Like that's what you do.
right,
So yeah, it's I feel really, really fortunate that my first experience of it was in Ohio, was there.
yeah.
And I do
And I
think
mean,
they need to expand on it.
I I fought against 12 stuff. I mean, I know I've had this discussion with you. The first few times I was ever exposed to it, I flat out. I remember my first detox, Stella Maris 7-day detox.
Mhm.
It was about day 3, and I had to talk to a counselor, and I think we'd had already done 2 meetings, and they're like, "Well, what do you think of AA?" And I looked at her, I said, "You want the honest answer?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "It's a fucking cult." He was like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, it's too cult-like for me." And in some ways, and don't get me wrong, I've been to some hardcore meetings, and I've met some old schoolers that's the only way you could accurately describe them. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, Once again, anything in excess can be abusive. Um, so okay, so step 1, 2, and 3. It's pretty simple. Stop fighting yourself,
yeah.
really, because I mean, when you really start to think about it, if you get brutally honest with yourself, which is a very key component to recovery and sobriety, which is the absolute cornerstone to step 4. Um, and when I say brutally honest, I mean not brutal in the aspect of don't beat yourself up and don't be down on yourself, but just be extremely truthful. Okay.
Be accountable.
Well, not even accountable, yes. Okay. And I've been steering clear of using that word because there are so many people who use it with such a negative connotation.
Mm, I agree
Okay.
with you on that.
I started using the word ownership.
I like that a lot better.
Yeah. Own your
Ownership.
shit,
Yeah.
basically. You know, Great example. My coworker who recently relapsed, um, was given multiple opportunities by the director of the house to come and take a urine test. Avoided, avoided it, avoided it. Finally, he said, "All right, I'm done. You're discharged." We start packing the shit up. Of course, the guy shows up in the middle of us packing the shit up. What the fuck? Freaking out. Had to walk around, beat his chest, and peacock. Because he's the big, strong alpha male. Dude, I'm sorry. I got to vent for a second. I'm in a house with 22 other male addicts, and they all walk around. And I'm so fond of this saying. I picked this one up early when I first got here. It was actually one of the older guys who was here. Um, every dog thinks it's an alpha till it meets a wolf.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
It just it amazes me, these guys who, they just walk around, they think they're I don't know, whatever they think, whatever programming they've been succumbed to, that they're just these big badass men, and they're always right and blah blah blah, and gotta say with your chest. Shut the fuck up and sit down. Really? You're such a big, strong, bad man? Okay, why the fuck are you in a rehab at 45 years old? And you have no car, and you're homeless, and you're jobless? Really? Because that doesn't sound like a man to me. And hey, I'm 100% guilty of the same shit, okay? I'm
Wait,
49
hold on.
fucking years old, all right? I'm not, everything I talk about is from experience, and I'm guilty of 100% of it. So don't ever get it twisted. But it just cracks me up. And it's like, oh, but you can't even wash your own dishes?
It's one of those things, Chris, though, like you don't realize that until you can take that step back and do that work and go like that,
Absolutely, because
like look around your home, like, oh shit, I haven't done my dishes for months. There's dirty laundry on the floor. Like that's when you can kind of like take that inventory and go, okay,
right. And
now
yeah,
now I can say something.
right.
Yeah,
And it's absolutely true. And believe me, I've been that guy.
I have to. I've been that
You know,
woman,
right.
not that guy, that woman.
So yeah, ownership. So anyway, so the coworker, he relapses. He basically blows off taking the urine test, gets discharged. Of course, he's got to strut out there and say a bunch of shit to the director while he's pretty high at the time, which was hilarious. Um, Director talks to him about a bunch of stuff, including the fact that he had recently gotten suspended from one job, and then on where he works, when I don't know if he's still working with us. Anyway, at our job, obviously I work at a golf course. We're on a lot of large, heavy, expensive equipment. Like our
Yep.
smallest mower probably weighs 2,500 pounds and costs $40,000. Okay. And that's like one of the little rough mowers. That's not the big ones that weigh 9,000 pounds and cost 80,000, or the greens mower that weighs 4,000 pounds and costs $110,000. Okay.
You can't be high in on those things.
No, not at all. Not
No.
not the way he was. Okay, don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. People who smoke medical marijuana, whatever, we've got a couple people who do, and they're at least functional enough that they're not going to drive into a pond or a tree. Okay.
Right.
He was so fucked up that like you couldn't even talk to him. It was literally, uh, and it's like, dude, I've been an intravenous, I was an intravenous heroin addict for almost 20 years. You think I don't know a nod when I see one? Who you trying to fool? Like, so we put him on equipment restriction. And needless to say, the director of the house talked to him about this because he came to me and asked me how he's doing at work, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to lie. I'm not here to cover your ass. You're a grown
Yeah.
ass man, remember? So he gets all up in my face about it. And I said, yeah. I said, me and my boss talked about it a few days ago. I said, and that was the decision we came to. I said, because quite honestly, I said, you're a hazard right now. I said, we
Yep.
don't need you hurting yourself or damaging the equipment. I said, and God forbid you run into a member's golf cart. I said, because that's a lawsuit you don't want. I work at a private country club. Okay. We've got over 300 members, and I believe like the full package is like at 30 grand a year.
Holy
Okay.
shit.
Yeah. Like I've seen these guys literally bet $1,000 per hole.
Oh my
Like it was play money, like it was Monopoly. Okay. Like
God.
you don't want to do that here. All right. So of course, the next day at work, it's, oh, I can't believe he didn't even let me take a urine test and all this other shit and blah blah blah, right? I'm thinking like you would have passed, right? Okay. So this week he hasn't been there all week. Mind you, a week ago he wrecked his car because supposedly he was playing with his phone and somebody went left of center and ran him off the road. but he got ticketed for failure to control. No. Later, the story changed to, well, maybe I fell asleep at the wheel.
Maybe, maybe.
Maybe. Right. Okay. Point being, own your shit, bro. Okay.
I
So
or
my boss starts
what?
texting him, like, where have you been? You pulled a no call, no show for 2 days, blah, blah, blah. He starts giving this song a dance. Oh, I'm dealing with the situation with the car. I got to go to Columbus. I got to do blah, blah, blah. At the end of all of this, he finally said, just give me another chance. I promise when I come back, I will be straight and I won't be fucked up on anything. Well, you just admitted guilt. Okay. But
Yeah,
good for you.
you owned your shit.
Right. You own your shit. Like, stop playing the fucking victim. It's not everybody else's fault.
Yeah.
And my first sponsor, back to that, was very fond of this saying, and that was, anytime I would start to complain about something, he'd be like, or I thought I was too smart for the program or whatever, and he'd be like, yeah, well, your best thinking got you here.
I love it. I love it.
Touche, motherfucker, touche. Like,
One of my favorite things is when not favorite, but it's funny to me when I look back on like all the times that I was messed up and I thought I was fooling people. And now when like I
oh
see other
god,
people, I'm like, oh my God, there was no way I was fooling anyone. Like, what the hell was I thinking? Like,
like
nodding down at the kitchen table. Are you kidding me? Like,
right. I
they
was
could hear
just
it in my
talking to
voice, see it like, holy shit. But it wasn't until I was like, yeah, I was fucked up. Okay. Then you can move past it. Like, oh my God,
I was
crazy.
just talking to my boss at work about that. We were laughing about it because I mean it was so painfully obvious. And I
Of
and
course
and
it
it's like I said
was.
to him, it's like I get it because I've been there. I understand the struggle. I really do. Okay. I'm grateful every day that I have done enough inner work and enough healing that I have risen above most of it and I don't have quite that mental arm wrestling match anymore. But yeah, I
Yeah.
look at things like that, or other guys who think they're getting away with something, think they're so slick, and I was like, my God, I was so fucking delusional. Like,
Yes.
what the hell was that? It used to amaze me that our mother, I could say hello, and she knew whether or not I was high.
Yeah.
Well, because my voice would change, you dumb fuck.
Yeah,
Like,
you can hear it in the voice. Yeah.
right. How do you know? I just don't understand how you know, Mom. Really? Come on.
we can laugh about it now because
Yeah,
we're
so we
not
don't
there
cry.
anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
It's
So,
I was thinking about when you were telling me the story about, your coworker and stuff. It's kind of like if that whole reflection thing. So if someone said to me, "You're the color blue," and I know I'm not the color blue, I don't care. I'm not going to get mad about it. But if I am the color blue and someone's like, "You're the color blue," that's when I get defensive. And I'm not saying being defensive calls you out as an addict, but it is something to pay
no, it
attention
doesn't
to.
call you out as an addict, okay? But what it is indicative of is defensiveness is usually an expression of anger, okay? And anger is a secondary emotion, it's a masking emotion. 99 times out of 100, if you're getting angry about something, it's because there's an underlying emotion, which is normally it's a fear-based emotion. There's embarrassment, shame, guilt, remorse, regret. There's a whole list of things. They call it the anger iceberg. Actually, look it up. Anger's at
Mm,
the top, and then there's a whole bunch of shit underneath the water, which is the real motivating emotion. And anger is essentially the manifestation of that. Okay, so defensiveness is very similar. It's an it's an ego response. Okay, it's not good or bad per se. Obviously, in excess, it can be. Lashing out obviously is not the best way to handle something. Sometimes there are situations that, yeah, that's exactly what's called for. More often than not,
yeah,
no. Um, Now, if you really want to get deep with it, 9 times out of 10, when you're specifically in that scenario, and some would call this a form of, what do they call it? De-escalation. 9 times out of 10 in a situation where, if you're in an argument, this is the best example. Whoever loses emotional control basically loses the argument because they've now given their power away. Well, and what you need to do is ask why this person is losing emotional control. It's usually because they're trying to either control the situation or they're trying to accept the situation. When you really break it down, well, I'm angry because you said this and it offended me. Well, why did it offend you? Well, because I have an insecurity about that, or I'm embarrassed by that, or it doesn't align with my opinions of the world because I think I'm right, because I don't want to be wrong because wrong means unloved. I'm having difficulty accepting the fact that you don't like something about me. It's an insecurity, but I'm going to lash out and be angry about it because the ego needs to defend that inner child.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose of the ego. And you need it to function. It's part of normal, healthy psyche.
It is, but
Ironically,
I would say that once you realize that you don't have to defend the ego or try to have control, then you can be like, okay, and then it doesn't
exactly.
bother you as much. Yeah.
Right. And that's where I was going with that is part of the reason the way the ego works is because the subconscious mind is always trying to validate its programming or its beliefs.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you believe that you're a certain type of person and whatever, and somebody challenges that belief, well, the ego's function is to defend it because that's what the subconscious mind wants to do. The subconscious mind is telling the conscious mind and the ego, hey, no, no, this is how we are. You need to defend that. And that's the id or the inner child, as some call it. They're really two separate sides of the same thing. But yeah, the point is ironically, underinflated and overinflated ego have very similar results.
Yeah.
Okay. And overinflated would be coming across very condescending or conceited, egotistical. Underinflated would be, very insecure, timid, all of these other things. You're never going to completely get rid of your ego. It's not going to happen. But you can hopefully obtain a good, healthy balance. Once you do obtain a good, healthy balance, you can start to reprogram the subconscious mind. And this is why, we've talked about how, important gratitude lists are and all this other stuff. Okay. You there?
There we go. Yep.
Yeah. When I started my car, because I'm like sitting here sweating my ass off, sitting in the sun, I decided to turn on the AC. My car Bluetooth automatically takes over my phone. So defensiveness and in the whole mirroring and introspection shit. Great example, a lot of guys in the house, they walk around, oh, I'm a big strong man, blah, blah, blah. And this is flat out judgment. They'll sit there and judge other people for doing something. Oh, look at him. He's acting like this. He's acting like that. And then they'll turn around and be guilty of the same behavior. And that's a lot of times I see it all the time. And I'm guilty of it too. We all are.
Yeah.
People are mirrors. The things you like and dislike in someone are the same things you like and dislike in yourself. Okay. And that's what it means by, if you've ever heard the saying of, you can't truly love somebody until you love yourself. That's true to an extent. You can only love them to the point of which you love yourself. You're only going to be able to experience what you already know with someone else or any interaction in the world. But yeah, you're right. And with the whole defensiveness thing, and it's so simple, really just ask yourself why. And don't just take the first answer. Go a couple layers deep. Why am I angry? Well, because he offended me. Okay, well, why did he offend you? Well, because he said something stupid. Okay, what did he say that you thought was stupid? Okay, so this person expressed an opinion you didn't agree with and you're going to get angry about it. Well, why don't you agree with that opinion?
You have to take the layers, otherwise you're never. It's
Right,
just
you're
going
never
to
going
keep
to.
triggering you. It's going to keep triggering. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And the point is at each one of those layers, if you take ownership of, don't you gotta twist the script, flip the script. Don't just be like, oh, they pissed me off. Well, okay, you decided to have an emotional reaction. Why, don't put the blame on them. You're now giving your power away. And that's what I mean by take ownership. Because as soon as you do that and you give that away, well, guess what? You're now no longer in control of your reality. You're allowing somebody else. Great example, that coworker. Months ago, there was an obnoxious kid at work. He's 17 years old. We're all obnoxious at 17. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
He got to the point, this is a 50-year-old man who got to the point where he got so irritated and upset at this kid that he wanted to start a fight with him and almost walked off the job. And I said to him, I said, dude, why are you letting this kid get under your skin that much? I just can't stand it. He's obnoxious. And I'm thinking, okay, how much of that behavior reminds you of yourself? That's what I
Yeah.
want to know. Because that's exactly what it is. And I'm guilty of the same thing. I'll see people do stuff at the house and I'm like, God, really? Why? Why can't you just fucking... And then I have to stop myself. It's not a them problem. It's a me problem. And
It's a
it's the
me
same thing.
problem.
The way a person treats you or reacts to you is not... And now, this is not a 100% fast rule. Obviously, if I walk up and smack you in the face, obviously I'm responsible for the initial pain and shock. But
Of
that also
course.
means I'm responsible for whatever consequences happen.
Yep.
Now, you can spend the rest of your day, month, year, half of your life upset about the fact that I just walked up and randomly slapped you in the face. That's on you. After that initial exchange, sure, of course you're going to be shocked. You're going to be angry. Oh, yeah, and you're probably going to react. Past that, if you let it keep eating at you, that's entirely on you. So it's, and that's the thing. It's like, it's, I don't know if it's a parenting issue, nature versus nurture, a product of society, whatever it is. But, we always want, and it is that we want people to take accountability for their part in something, which most people do not do at all.
Mm.
Um, I equate that to a self-love, self-worth issue that is a byproduct of our society, but we'll get into that some other time. Um, but that's the thing, like, how a person reacts to you is a reflection of their character, not your worth.
That's a
And
T-shirt
it's
right there. I love
right.
it.
And that is, I can honestly say that has been one of my more profound and bigger lessons this time around. You know, and I've said this before in other videos. Addiction is progressive, so is recovery.
I love that you said that because so many people don't realize that. Like, okay, say you're in recovery and you go out into addiction, and they always tell you like you're gonna end up right back where you were. Well, the same thing happens when you get into recovery again. Boom. Now you're back where you were. Now you can start doing that work again. Am I saying that right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think that's
Yeah.
important for people who are trying to be in recovery to hear and to understand. Like, okay, I fucked up. All right, I can continue to beat myself up over it, or I can get back in there and start doing the work. It's the same thing.
Well, and I love that turn of phrase you use, beat yourself up.
Yeah.
Myself included. Most addicts I know, by the time we get into a rehab, we've, and that's the funny thing. When you really think about it, at least for me anyway, there's not much that scares me or threatens me or offends me anymore because, quite honestly, there isn't anything anyone else could do to me that I haven't already done to myself 10 times over.
Yep.
Flat out.
Yeah.
I've treated myself worse than anyone else ever has in my life. And it's ironic that we do that. The really fucking thing that'll bake your noodle is when you start to figure out why, and it's like, oh, because I was really wanting people to love me, so I beat myself. Like, it's very confusing, okay?
It
But
is. It is.
for anybody very new in sobriety who's watching this, first of all, good for you. Um, don't be afraid of change. It's not that you're incapable of it. It's just it's unknown. Okay.
Yep.
You've normalized a particular lifestyle and a particular behavior that's what you're used to and that's what's comfortable. Okay. And my sister can attest to this. We are all 100% guilty of this. You know, I don't miss it anymore, but there are definitely other times that I've been through rehabs where I missed that lifestyle. I missed the constant running around and hustling and all this other stuff. It made me feel productive. It gave me a sense of self-worth because I was constantly putting out fires. I was in this constant state of survival and reaction mode. And I prided myself on being able to handle that and do it semi-functionally.
If
Air
if
quotes
you
there.
think about it though, Chris, like that's kind of like the hidden superpower with being an addict because we all had our hustle or this or that. So if
Sure.
you could take that same energy and motivation that you did to get high that day and put it towards something productive, like
Oh, even
holy
not
shit.
even half of it, a quarter of it.
Agreed. Agreed. What's that one? Oh, I know I sent it to you. It's that it's like a quick little reel and it's the woman she's talking about like, like don't let a crackhead out hustle you today.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I love that one. And
And
it's
and it,
true.
I've said that many times. The funny thing is, you know, stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason. Okay.
Yeah.
When I'm under the influence and I'm in active addiction, I am a complete malignant narcissistic piece of shit.
You
Yeah,
are. I
like
love you, but you are.
100%. I will rob you and come help you look for what I just stole. Straight up. No
Yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Anyway, um, where was I going? So yeah, I can be a total, POS under active addiction. Um, where was I going with this?
I'm not sure. It'll come.
Yeah, sorry, I got interrupted by a spam call.
I call
Uh,
that my stalker. My potential spam calls me every day.
oh, you only get one? You're lucky.
Oh, several. I get several.
It's calmed down now a little bit, but for a while I was literally getting over 20 calls a day
Holy shit.
about marketplace health insurance. Okay, and here's the reason why. My last relapse, I did the sucker move and oh cool, $2,500 spending card. No.
Hmm.
I accidentally signed up for this crap. Which by the way, anybody who does, my experience with it was it comes out of your taxes. Um, so no, they can screw off. Well, so then the next year, my taxes got goofed up because of this stuff. I had to actually go back to this fucking website and basically re-sign up, but not actively pick anything, so that I didn't technically have an active account. But that was the only way I could get the information on how many months I had been active the year before, so I could file my taxes. Right.
Oh my
So it
god.
has taken me 9 months of take me off your call list, click, take me off your call list, click, to finally get it down to the point where I might get 2 a day now.
There's this comedian, John Mulaney. He used to be on Saturday Night Live. I know I sent you some of his skits, but he has this great little skit about how he's talking about Venmo and Cash App are basically made for drug addicts. And he's like, "What are all of
Yep.
you regular people doing on our app?" Because everyone knows this is made for drug addicts.
Basically, yeah.
And that's kind of what that reminded me of when you were saying that. If you haven't watched it, check out John Mulaney. Hysterical.
So
That's my
yeah, early
dog.
sobriety. Don't be don't be afraid of the change. You know, the reason it's called rehab, it means rehabilitation, which means to rehabilitate, meaning learning how to function again,
Yep.
learning new
Hey,
habits for one, and learning how to
you,
live and take care of yourself and all that other stuff. Um,
you got to give
don't
yourself
be
grace.
afraid, huh?
You have to give yourself grace and kind of roll with the punches, like you're learning
Yes.
something new again.
And to the people early on, there's a thing out there we call it the willingness wellness equation. Okay. In one hand, you have your wellness, and the other hand, you have willingness, willing to change. Okay. So the lower the wellness is, or the worse you feel, the more willing you're to do anything about it, aka the addict's hustle. We'll
Yep.
do just about anything to feel well again.
Yep.
Well, once you stop using the drugs and the alcohol and stuff, and the brain fog starts to clear, and you start eating again, not just better, but again.
Yeah.
You put your body through shock by giving it some food and water. Um, you get a good night's sleep. You start to feel better. Well, then your willingness starts to drop off. Okay, and everyone goes through this. Okay, and this usually happens within the first 90 days. Well, the first 30 days first, and then about the first 90 days after that. And that's why anyone who's been through the program usually more than once will tell you the first 30 days is the hardest as far as that is concerned. Do not fall prey to the trap of, oh, I'm all better now. I got this. If you ever find yourself saying, I got this, or I'm fixed, or I'm cured, or I'm cool, biggest red flag there is.
Yep. And
Huge.
for me personally, that's why like I appreciate and I get like 30-day programs, 90-day programs, but really when you're serious about it, even when you complete that 30 or 90-day program, you're going to be like, let me do it again. Let me do it again. Because you need more of that time to let it all integrate and sink in.
Exactly. And I mean, and that harkens back to what we were talking about earlier, which about the whole emotional maturity and all this other stuff, and in even just working through the 12 steps. The funny thing is, early on in AA, they used to actually take you through all 12 steps in one night.
Yeah. They would
Okay.
pull them out from the railroad tracks and find them, like, which
Yeah.
it's
Um.
an incredible story.
So now I don't suggest you go through all 12 of them in one night, and
No.
if you do, fine, do it once a week for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
you know. Um. One of the more powerful steps is step 4, which I think we've worked up to now. I know we're all over the place. This is how me and my sister talk, and we haven't actually talked in a while, so it's kind of you guys are getting a whole conglomerate of stuff. Um, Step 4 is
Wait, do you want me to read the 12 fucking steps? Step 4?
yes, yes,
Okay.
please.
Step 4. Write all about how fucked up I really am.
Step 4. Everyone hates the dreaded step 4. It's
But
like
they
I said
still
earlier.
appreciate it.
Yeah, once you get it done, as the joke I said, it takes 3 weeks to think about it. Really, I think the joke is it takes 3 weeks to start it, 1 day to write it.
Yeah.
Um, just like everything else, step 4 is layers. I can tell you right now, your first 4th step, you're not going to have everything on it.
Nope.
You're going to forget stuff. You're going to remember stuff later on. Or like most of us, you're going to leave at least 1 or 2 things out.
Well, yeah,
Okay,
because you're not ready to admit that.
right. Step 4 is essentially writing down all of the things that you have resentments against. People, places, things, institutions, So that includes the police, your school, your parents, God, your exes, your car, your job, your boss, the idiot who sat at the fucking green light, whatever it is. Okay. Now,
Wait, I just want to premise though, real quick. Step 4 is for you personally. It's like your sponsor might read it because you are going to have to like do that, but it's so don't skip it. Don't leave those things out like, oh, I don't want them to know. No, write it all out. It's all for
I got a
you.
story for you about that. Okay. So, first of all, I struggled with the first time I did my fourth step. I struggled with because the resentment. I, like most people, thought resentment just meant anger. You, my first sponsor explained to me. He said, "No, resentment is this." He goes, "If that person were to walk through the door right now, would you have an uncontrolled emotional reaction, good, bad, or indifferent?
Mm.
That's a resentment." Same thing. If somebody brings up, mentions cops or whatever, which is ironic. Why do so many addicts watch the show Cops? I
I
don't get it.
know, right?
Somebody please answer this question for me. I come to the conclusion that it's one of those things that, it's kind of like watching, reading about the Darwin Awards, if you've ever read those,
Yeah.
or like the stupidest criminals of the year. Man, I'm glad I'm not that dumb. You know what I mean? So I kind of think that maybe that's it. Anyway, segue. So typically, there's a lot of different ways you can do your fourth step. My first sponsor had me basically just write down the person, place, or institution that I had the resentment against, what the actual resentment was, and then what my part in that was.
Mm.
Yeah. And I had to read it to him. Some people opt to do it to a priest or whatever, because they don't want to. First of all, if you have something that you don't want to tell your sponsor, it's probably not the right sponsor.
I agree with that
I'll tell you it right
100%.
now. And how you pick and find a sponsor, early on, it might just be your first, just grab anybody just to get you started. But ultimately, what you're looking for is you're looking for somebody who displays something you want.
My first sponsor, because most of the meetings I was going to, it was a lot of men, and everyone was like, "You can't have a man be your sponsor." So literally, my first sponsor, her name was Christina, and she was the first woman I saw at a meeting, and I was like, you're my sponsor."
Right.
She did a fantastic job. She really did. Like she was she was a little tough. She wasn't quite like your like girly girl. Like she was like, I'm calling you on your BS kind of thing. So,
Yeah. And
but
that's the other thing. A good sponsor is going to call you out on your shit probably on a daily basis. Okay.
yep,
But, you know, they're not there to constantly give you rides to your new fling. They're not there to always buy you smokes. Okay. If your sponsor feels so inclined to do that, by all means. Okay.
they're not your
Um,
personal VA.
right. You know, they're there to help guide you through the steps. Okay. And it's probably going to be in a way that you don't like or agree with. And that's
Yep,
probably good. You know, one of the things my first sponsor told me is there's two times to go to a meeting, when you want to and when you don't want to. And when you don't want to is the more important one.
yep.
And he's absolutely right. So it's the same thing with sponsors. When your sponsor wants you to do something, you're like, man, I don't want to fucking do this shit. It's
That's when you do it.
you're making the bed story, is what I just
Yep.
thought of. Yeah, that's when you do it. There's a reason, okay? Anyway, um, so I read all of my stuff to my first sponsor, and I was terrified. Oh my God. He sat there and he listened. He had a couple, little chuckles here and there. And I got done and I was like literally sweating. And he just sat there and he looked at me and he said, "Is that it?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, first of all, I was expecting a lot more. Second of all, there isn't a damn thing on that list I haven't done myself at least twice over." I just started laughing. I was like, "Oh, thank God."
Thank
So,
God.
and that's, once again, that's a byproduct of addiction, which, and we'll do an episode on causes and conditions yet, and my personal experience and belief on what a lot of the core issues with addicts are. It's a self-worth, self-love issue. Anyway, um, we and I think this is even in the big book. We come into recovery in the program and whatnot, and we all think of ourselves as terminally unique. There's nobody else out there like me. Nobody has my problems. Nobody suffered like me. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Trust me when I tell you. Once you get into the rooms, once you get into meetings and everything else, I guarantee you, this is an absolute promise. You will find somebody who's got a worse story than you. You will find somebody who has done everything you have done, probably in the same city, two
But
blocks away from where you were doing it. Okay? Like, you are not that unique. Yes,
that's
you're
what
unique. Everyone is an individual. Everyone has their own unique things. But
I love about the fourth step is because that's what you realize. Like, oh, I thought I was this horrible, this bad. And they're like, no, I did that too. I did this also. I did that. Like, that's the beauty of the
I
fourth
did
step.
that one
For
twice. No,
me. Exactly. Exactly.
three
Yeah.
times just to make sure I liked it. No, it's like,
Exactly.
you know, um, but that's, so that's a big part of it. And the other thing that my first fourth step really did to me was it really opened my eyes as far as the rest of the empowerment. The first part of the empowerment is realizing that you are powerless while you're under the influence and you have lost your power of choice. So once you surrender to that, you now realize, oh, I have the power of choice again. I can choose whether or not I want to get high. Duh.
Yeah.
You know, once you get past the physical dependency of it, which initially a week, 2 weeks, maybe, yeah, you're going to have cravings and dreams and all this other stuff for several months yet, because that's just the brain rewiring itself. At any rate, um, that hard physical dependency is gone. And so you have the power of choice again. So the next part is, once you go through those resentments and you take ownership of the part you played in each of those scenarios, like the guys who are like, oh, I got fucking asshole cop, I got thrown in jail for fucking 90 days. But okay, well, what were you doing to get thrown in jail? I wasn't doing nothing. Oh, bullshit. Well, it was a stolen car. Okay, you know what I mean? Like, you know,
Or my favorite is like, I kept getting DUIs. Well, were you drinking and driving? Well, yeah. Well, okay then. Like,
right. Like,
what do you expect is going to happen? Like,
so, and that's it, taking ownership, especially when it comes to like resentments against people and stuff. Oh, I'm not talking to this dude anymore because he robbed me. Okay, well, why did he rob you? Well, it turns out you had robbed him earlier, or he was an addict too, and you left
yeah.
$500 in cash sitting in the car while you ran in the gas station. He took it and ran off. Like, okay, well, you know, whatever the scenario is, it doesn't matter what the scenario or the interaction is. If you were involved, you had a part to play.
Yep.
It's really that simple. And that's all you're doing is acknowledging and owning that. And what you'll find a lot of times is that more often than not, with the rare exception of somebody, just a stranger walking up punching you in the face, okay, you know, as the book says, resentment's real or imagined.
Yeah.
Most of the resentments you'll find are all in here. They're your issues. It's not every cop is an asshole. No,
Of
think
course.
about think about all the fucking idiots he's got to deal with on a daily basis, like us. All
Yeah.
right, he might be a little cynical and jaded. Granted, that may not be the healthiest approach, but you know what I'm saying? Like, just like you're jaded and cynical towards the cop because he kept busting you doing the same dumb shit. You know
Doing
what
the
I
dumb
mean? Like,
shit.
hey, once again, there's that mirror thing again. So now I did my 4-step. We burned it. I agree with that. I think it's very cathartic. I think it's very not only symbolic, but it connects the cerebral with the physical, and it allows you a more tangible release.
There's a
And then you made
reason
me
so many people have trouble with the fourth step, but anyone who's actually done the fourth step will tell you how freeing it is once you get
yes,
through the fourth step. So
yeah.
do the fourth step. At
Now,
least that. If you do nothing else, get through the fourth step.
right now, at the same time, I know a lot of people who've done 4th steps, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't feel nothing."
Then
Okay,
you didn't
well,
do
and
it right.
that does happen, but I agree with my sister there. If it didn't give you some kind of relief, just to just to get all that shit, okay, fourth and fifth, because you usually do them at the same time.
Yeah.
Even if it is just to get all that shit out, if you don't get some kind of relief, then yeah, you didn't do it thoroughly enough. You didn't do it honestly enough. You know, and if you're lying about the situations and the part you played in it, you're not doing it right at all. You're
No.
just wasting your fucking time, flat out. Um. So anyway, I did it. We burned it. The next day, he said, "Okay, now do another one. You got a week."
I fucking love it. You had the best sponsor for you. Because
He
I know
was.
you.
Yeah. And at that time, yes, he was. Now, and granted, through that sponsor and that program, I got 4.5 years of sobriety, and
Yeah.
then I ran into a situation that I was not prepared for, and ended up relapsing, and now here I am again with almost 2 years. So, uh,
You got 2 years?
yes, almost 20. I'll have 22 months on the 21st.
Of course. I love it.
Right.
22 on the 21st.
And no, I didn't plan that. I ended up picking November 21st, 2023 as my sobriety date because I couldn't remember the actual day as usual. I went into I did it. What was supposed to be a 5-day detox, and I stayed 3 because then they stopped after 3 days. They took me off med protocol, and I was like, well, fuck this. If I'm still gonna feel like shit, I'm gonna do it at home.
Right?
And I was actually staying with a friend of mine who was gracious enough to let me couch surf at her house. Many heart goes out to her. Um, but she essentially helped save my life. Anyway, took me about a little over a week to get into the next place, which was supposed to be a 30-day program. And as any good addict did, I had to have my last hurrah. So I get to the 30-day program. I went in high.
Of
I
course.
actually did my last little bit in the bathroom as they were strip searching me.
Oh my.
So, like I said, I'm fucked up, okay? I'm a sick puppy sometimes. I laugh at this because I've heard the same story from so many people. Oh my God. No, it's not funny. I shouldn't have been doing that. But it is funny because, not because I got away with it. That's not it. Because I really didn't get away with it. They weren't stupid.
They
And
knew
then, of course,
exactly what was done.
yeah, of course, the next day, I'm sweating like a freaking whore in church, feeling like complete dog shit. I got to drop my urine. They're like, huh, you came up positive for cocaine and fentanyl. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, yeah, well, they're like, didn't you just go to a detox like 2 weeks ago? I'm like, yeah. Do you need detox? No, I should be good. So
You
3 days
normally
of
have to
hell,
admit.
right? 3 days of hell,
Oh my God.
going to these groups and shit.
All for the ego. All for the
Yeah,
ego.
exactly. You know, um, ironically, no, I didn't stay at that 30-day program the whole 30 days. I think I stayed 8. And
That
it
is
wasn't
ironic.
because it was a beautiful facility. It was just the curriculum that they were doing in their groups. I've done 4 other times.
Yeah.
And I talked to my counselor and I explained this to her. I said, look, I'm not getting anything out of this. Like, I told her, I said, I'm not going to walk out the door, but I need you to find me somewhere to go.
Yeah.
And originally she said, "Can you give me one day?" And I said, "I can do one better." I said, "I'll give you 21 days because it was 21 days from that day, or 21 days from the day I came in was going to be the full moon." I said, "I'll give you to the full moon."
I love it.
2 days later, she found me out the house, and that's where I went. Um, I think it was the 18th when I went to that place, November 18th. So I didn't count the first 3 days because I was essentially detoxing. So I
Yeah.
ended up picking the 21st, and that's how I got this sobriety date this time. Which,
My
funny enough, I had
my
21
sobriety
months.
date. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I had 21 months on the 21st.
Ironically,
But
my sobriety date is your birthday.
right, I do remember that.
Hmm.
So, uh,
And
so yeah, the fourth one.
and
Go ahead.
Tim Keating was the first one that got me to go to a meeting. He was going to meet me at the meeting, but when I got there, he didn't show up, and it was an all men's meeting. But they still allowed me to come in, and I was like, "Okay, what's happening?" Which
What a
I
dick
find
move.
completely ironic. We're not going to get into that right now, but maybe one day I'll
No,
tell you guys
that
that
is
story.
very ironic. I'm just
Yeah,
I already get it.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
now when you go through the program and you go through the 12 steps. So fourth and fifth, you basically do it the same time. Okay. And just like there is, psychological and psychosomatic reasons why my sponsor had me burn my fourth step, there are reasons why in the fifth step you are to read this out loud and basically admit to God and another human being your shit.
Yeah,
Okay. Because by speaking it, you are taking ownership. Okay.
yeah.
It's also helping you to overcome the fears of embarrassment and shame and all that other crap because you'll very quickly realize if your sponsors, like any of the ones we've had, there's nothing on that they haven't heard or seen or done.
Yep.
Okay. There really isn't. I can't even tell you the number of stories and stuff I've heard that I was just like, yeah, and the people were like, "Oh, really? That's not that bad?"